Welcome to IAS Market Talk, your trusted source for timely ag market insights, brought to you by Innovative Ag Services. Each week, we break down the latest beef market trends impacting Northeast Iowa and Southwest Wisconsin, with expert updates tailored specifically for our IAS members. This week, you'll hear directly from Dave Rueber, IAS Beef Production Specialist, who brings decades of experience and deep knowledge of the cattle industry to these conversations. Dave has been providing market updates to producers for years, and now he's bringing those insights straight to you through this podcast. Tune in weekly for what you need to know straight from people you know. With that, here's Dave Rueber with the latest on what's happening in the cattle markets this week.
David Rueber, Beef Production Specialist for Innovative Ag Services, calling with a beef market commentary for March 4th. Been kind of a wild couple of weeks here, both cattle markets-wise, worldwide-wise. It's, markets as a general rule do not like uncertainty. That usually causes pretty much every product or market to go down. We've certainly got some uncertainty. You look back at last week, we were down, I think the board was down like $3 Thursday, $4 Friday, and that was before, all the stuff happened in Iran. So, we kind of had those things happen with some news with JBS potentially, striking. We had beef getting mentioned in the State of the Union address that it needed to come down. So just some stuff that was just kind of weighing on it last week. Well, then we have everything, all the world events over the weekend, and we're thinking Monday's going to roll around and the cattle market's going to tank. Futures will be down hard. Well, cattle futures are down a little bit to start the day. By the end of the day, they were up. And we've had a strong week since then, up another $4 today. Probably what's leading the charge this week is box beef values. I've been beating that drum that it's time for the seasonal rally in box beef, and that is fully in play. Packers have been cutting kills substantially for the last month, and it's kind of finally showing up in box beef prices. We put $15-20 on boxes here in the last 3 weeks, so that's a pretty substantial rally. And getting Packers back to where that pretty ugly margins that they were dealing with are significantly better. So, that's where they're coming from a different frame of mind today than they were 3 weeks ago on those things. The cash cattle market, I'll go back to last week. I would have called it $3 to $5 lower. Low 240s, 240 to 243 was catching most of the cattle in our area. So it was down pretty hard. The Southwest was down about $6 last Friday. They were trading cattle for about that 242, 243 as well. Some cattle down even as low as 239 and 240. Nothing's really traded yet this week. We came into the week thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to buy cattle another $3 or $4 cheaper. Then the boards had a good week, up strong today again. So, yeah, it's kind of feeling like kind of a steady week, low 240s. Also kind of flat with what we did last week. The April board is back up into the high 230s. It had actually dipped under 230, kind of at the lows at the end of last week. So nice little rally on futures market as well. Feeder cattle had dropped $10 to $15 the end of last week and first of this week. They're coming back, obviously. Feeder cattle futures up $7 today. Cash feeders, they're looking for an excuse to go higher, and they found it this week after Monday anyway. So, we had seen those 8-weight steers dipping down into that 350 range. They're going to be back up there pushing 360. The 9-weight steers kind of 340s, 350s, right in there, more so in the mid 340s. The calves maybe softened a little bit, those 6 weights, low 400s for those steers. Heifers continue to run about $30, $40 back on the calves, and about $25 back on the yearlings. Corn creep back up a little bit. Cost of gains, steers should be a little under $1. Heifers in that 104, 105 range. It's that time of year. I've talked about it before. Grass cattle kind of keep this feeder cattle market inflated. I don't expect big drops in feeders. There's some people that caught some on this little bit of dip this past week, but long-term feeder cattle this time of year, tighter supplies, not the biggest runs at the sale barns. They're going to hold right in there. A lot of these break-evens back up there, 240, give or take a little bit. Not hedgeable, but they haven't been hedgeable for a while now. So you got to get a little creative if you do want to put something in play there to try to protect something. So, yeah, it's once again back into the volatile part of things. Kind of watch this deal, but yeah, it feels like cash cattle going to trade somewhere a little bit north of 240 this week. Once again, my name is David Rueber, Beef Production Specialist for Innovative Ag. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of IAS Market Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an update. And if you know a fellow producer who could benefit from this information, share this episode with them. For more updates and insights, visit innovativeag.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll catch you next time on IAS Market Talk.
Are you ready for a hands-on role with purpose? Join the facility operations team at Innovative Ag Services, where we value hard work, safety, and community. With locations across Northeast and Central Iowa and Southwest Wisconsin, we offer industry-leading benefits, on-the-job training, and a culture that supports your growth. From competitive pay to a uniform allowance, we invest in our team. Grow with IAS and discover your co-opportunity. Apply today at innovativeag.com.